Hey guys, it's Dr. Dragonite, and welcome to episode 3 of Runescape Rambles. In this episode, we're going to talk about player interaction, high-level content, how they can incentivize people to get toward the end game instead of continuously making mid-game content, and how they can use the spellbook to kind of assign roles so that the game has a little more diversity and there is that player interaction. One thing that I have found troubling about RuneScape lately is that the game really has become a solo game. There is nothing in the game that you cannot do on your own. And I think that's a problem for an MMO, because if you're playing an MMO that you're just doing completely on your own, then it's not really an MMO anymore. And the problem is that there's so many RuneScape servers that you don't have to fight over spawns like a traditional MMO. You have a damage system that allows you to eat when you have 1 HP left and never die. There's so many facets about this game, but it never encourages people to get to the end game. There is raids and stuff, but you don't have to be like max combat stats. There's no roles where you have to have a higher level crafting so you can craft band-aids or something for the raid while your team's fighting a boss and run in and heal them. There's no mechanics like that, and that's the kind of mechanics you really need. You need to have roles, because otherwise, people are never going to have to interact with each other. And maybe the objective of RuneScape isn't to get people to interact, because they did come out with Iron Man. I understand that a lot of people wanted Iron Man mode and hardcore and ultimate, but those are not the kind of game modes that the company should be focusing on. And we started out with saying, hey, they won't affect the game, that like there's no problems here or anything, but no matter what you try and do as a company, sticking a bunch of players who can't interact with other people, otherwise their gameplay experience is ruins the gameplay experience for everybody else. And it's something that Bodhi did amazing, and he started it on his own, and it got such popularity and views and stuff that they decided to go ahead with it. But I don't think most people understand the problems that come along with this. Like, Iron Man might as well have just downloaded a bootstrap version of the game that's never updated, and we should have just given him that. I'm not trying to hate on Iron Man and stuff, but they're not part of an MMO. They're part of a solo MMO, and that really forces people to not care to interact with each other, and nobody cares about the end game anymore. Jagex put out the Nightmare, but you don't have to be max stats for the Nightmare. There's no mechanics where you have to heal your partner, use a Sandfuse serum on them. Like, we need mechanics that forces teams to interact with each other. You just drink a Sandfuse serum yourself at the Nightmare and you're good to go, like when the spawn hits you. But what if you couldn't do that? What if somebody else had to use like some defense or damage reflecting spell from a unique spellbook that was only used in Nightmare? Or let's jump over to Raids 3. Raids 3 is something that they're not considering for a while, because they said, oh, there's so much high-level content. But there isn't a lot of high-level content. There's a lot of medium-level content, and that's entirely what the game's based around, only because the fact that they decided that, I don't want this game to be completed, so all of their updates are based around the mid-game. And a couple times in this video, I'll flash my stats, but I'm almost maxed. Like, I'm a couple months away, and I've never tried TOB, but I've watched streams of it, videos of it. It's basically the same thing as Chambers of Zarek without puzzles. It's just straight bosses, and you run through, you kill them in a very, basic way. The mechanics are very simple. The tick that bosses are attacking, you walk away from them so they can't melee you. It's so standard and basic, that RuneScape hasn't even tried to evolve as a game in the proper way. I'm not saying change combat systems and stuff, but we can have other spellbooks. We can have a spellbook for tanks that they have timers on their spells. There'll be like reduce 25% of incoming damage as long as you're wearing a bulwark kind of things. You can have reflex spells on tanks, aggro spells to draw aggro. I know this creates a lot of problems, but maybe you make those spells more expensive. Maybe make them unique to Raids 3 and make it so that when you go into Raids 3, you have to choose a spell book. And if everybody doesn't choose one of like 3 different spell books, then the party's going to fail, because there's no way you can survive if somebody doesn't protect somebody else. Somebody might have like a healer role where their spells heal over time but have like 2-minute cooldowns between being able to heal like 25 HP every 4 seconds, or like 5 HP every 4 seconds for like 20 seconds. You get like 20 HP back, but there might be a 2-minute cooldown on the spell. And so you'd have to time it so that you're not just healing them at full HP for that 20 seconds, and communicate with your team. This is all things that I think Jagex should really think about, because as a high-level player, I really do feel like the endgame is lackluster compared to the mid-game, and that's not encouraging for people to even try and get to the endgame. Sure, there's 10,000 people with max capes, but maybe not all those 10,000 people play at the same time, but it does make up a huge portion of the game, and you should be encouraging everybody to get to that end game content. If you want to be a healer role, you might need to have 99 crafting in a raid. If you want to be a tank role, then you might have to bring like some kind of like spells to reduce damage, or have construction that can build like a shield or something that somebody can stand behind to avoid an attack. And you might be the tank number 1 who's tanking the boss, and tank number 2 has to build the shields. There's so many different things, and like they did a pretty good job with Nightmare, making it aggro the person with the highest defense. But what happens if they make a boss that changes aggro every once in a while, and if you don't change the aggro back to your tank on your spell or something, then it's going to smack somebody like 3 seconds later for max damage, and you need to have your tank either tank the damage or get the aggro range and like absorb some of it, and then maybe the healer comes in, and after they take the big hit, they have like a 5-minute cooldown on like a HP restore or full stat restore spell that costs like 10 bloods and 10 souls. They could make new runes called like armor runes and Helio runes or something like that, and have those runes as in raid exclusive rewards. And that's something I think they should think about, because right now the end game isn't really end game. It's mid-end game, and there's nothing in the game that forces people to communicate with each other. And that's really what an MMO is about. It's about getting skills and levels up so that you can communicate with people to complete high-level bosses. And there's no reason that shouldn't be in RuneScape. RuneScape has its own identity as a game, but it falls too far from a generic MMO layout. We might as well just download solo versions of RuneScape at this point and play all on our own and never have anybody. And TOB is solo content, Raids is solo content. It's all solo content that you don't even need max levels for. So if there's anything that Jagex could do, it's make some extremely high level content, kind of like the Inferno, but they could also rework fight pits. The fight pits used to spawn like hundreds of Tizhar at one point. I don't know if it still does that. It took like 20 to 30 minutes before it actually spawned them before, so if you want to try it, go ahead. But maybe make a team game where you have to defend against hordes of the Tizhar, and that could be something like Inferno 2. There's nothing stopping them from doing this stuff. They just need to put in the resources, and if they get these games together, they can use them as promotional events and say, look, team up with your friends and take on the Tizhar armies, and but be careful because you could lose all your stuff or something like that. And we could totally rework some of these mini games and stuff to be much more team-oriented. New boss content needs to be focused. I understand there's no voice chat in RuneScape. It makes it hard, but maybe your chat box pops up with an interface when you're in the raid with specific call-outs or something that you can say, like tank needed or tank take aggro or healer come heal me, something like that, like a quick chat. But maybe you just have like tags all over or something, like there's like 20 tags in your chat box when you're in the raid, and you can flip between your chat box and your tags, so that when you're in the middle of fighting like the stage 3 boss or something, let's say he's the giant sand golem or something, and we're in Menphos for raids 3, then you need to be able to say like, hey, everybody get on the east side, tank stand on the west side, tank use aggro now, things like that. Healer come to the north side and heal the tank and put like a damage reducing spell on the rest of the team or something like that. And RuneScape's really gotten away from being an MMO. It's not an MMO anymore. It's a solo game, and that's one thing that as a high level player I'm a little concerned about. But there is ways that Jagex can fix it, and that's up to them to come up with ideas that the community will enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this episode of RuneScape Rambles. Don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below with some of your ideas. Do you think RuneScape should be a solo game? Should it be a downloadable version for like Xbox and stuff that you just play on your own? Because we have so many servers that nobody has to fight over spawns, so what's the point in playing together? And just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode of RuneScape Rambles, and I hope you have a wonderful day.